Buenos días. Soy el maestro Domínguez. Muchas gracias por venir este día tan temprano a aprender con nosotros aquí en State and Federal. El día de hoy vamos a aprender sobre cómo usar lo básico de Zoom. Eh, Voy a dejar tiempo al final de la presentación para cualquier pregunta, cualquier duda que tengan. Vamos a hacer la presentación en inglés, pero sí tenemos una traductora y en unos minutos voy a enseñarles cómo pedir la traducción. Good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Dominguez from State and Federal. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. As I was mentioning in Spanish, this meeting will be held in English, but we do have an interpreter who will go ahead and interpret for us during the meeting. In about a minute, I'm going to show you, because I want to start at 9 o'clock, show you how to actually interpret the meeting if you need to go ahead and do that, okay? And then I will also show you how to change your name, how to make sure that you're able to get into a breakout room and out of a breakout room. And we'll go all over that. And I'll show you both in a web browser or the Zoom app, as well as a phone, okay? Okay, I'm going to give one more minute and just for anybody who might be behind, and then we will go ahead and get started. It looks like a lot of you already know how to mute yourself, so that's great. That's one of the things we'll go over. En un minuto empezaremos porque quiero darle un poquito más de tiempo a la gente que está un poquito atrasada o que esté tratando de entrar a este workshop, pero parece que todo el mundo puede poner su micrófono en mute. Entonces es excelente. Y en un momento les enseñaré cómo escoger la traducción o la interpretación en español para que si ocupan hacer eso en cualquier otra junta donde ofrezcan esto, ustedes van a poder escogerlo. In a minute, I'm going to go ahead and start with the presentation. We're going to start with how to ask for an interpretation or in Spanish so that if you're in any meeting, you will be able to go ahead and do this, okay? So let me go ahead and start with that since I think we can go ahead and start. Here we go. So once again, I am Mr. Dominguez. I work here at State and Federal. I am a parent engagement teacher on special assignment. Miss Simmons, Anna Simmons, which most of you should know or probably already know, she is doing our interpretation today. So she will be the one helping us out. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. So in order to get an interpretation in Spanish, what you need to do is you need to go into the little globe that is on your toolbar. Your toolbar is that thing that shows up when you move your Zoom. So you will be able to get into that toolbar by moving your mouse. When you move your mouse, it gets you into a toolbar. And you want to look for the globe. The little globe. Lo que quiero enseñarles ahorita es cómo pedir una interpretación si es que está siendo ofrecida en esa junta. Y esta puede ser cualquier junta, no tiene que ser una junta del distrito, pero puede ser una junta fuera del distrito. Si hacen clic donde está el globo y la forma de cómo pueden accesar el globo es moviendo su mouse o su ratón. Si hacen clic, ahí van a poder ver un globo. En ese globo va a haber una flechita. Las flechitas en Zoom significan que tienen opciones. The little arrows in Zoom basically mean that you have options when you click on that. En este caso, cuando hacemos un clic en ese globito, lo que va a pasar es que nos va a dar la opción en Zoom, si es que están ofreciendo la interpretación en Zoom, nos va a dar la opción de escoger diferentes idiomas. En este caso, el idioma va a ser español. Lo que van a tener que hacer es, van a tener que escoger cuál de los idiomas quieren. En este caso, nomás va a ser inglés o español. Escoger el español y luego van a tener que también apretar a mute original o hacerle mute al audio original, que es el audio que están escuchando ahorita conmigo, porque de aquí en adelante voy a hacer toda la presentación en inglés. If you want to hear this in Spanish, you can always go to the little interpretation if we're offering interpretation through Zoom. Some schools actually offer interpretation through a phone number, but if we're offering interpretation in Zoom, which we do here at State and Federal, when we have our State and Federal DLAC or DPAC meetings, you want to click on this little globe. Then you want to pick the language. The English language is the one you're hearing right now. If you want to hear it in Spanish, what you need to do is you need to click on the Spanish one and then mute the original audio. If you don't mute the original audio, it's going to give you probably a headache. So you want to make sure that you click the language that you want. In this case, you probably want to want Spanish, and then mute the original audio. Okay. So that's how you ask for an interpretation if it's being offered through Zoom, which we do offer it here at State and Federal. Una vez más, si quieren escoger otro idioma que estemos ofreciendo, en este caso español con Ms. Simmons, entonces lo que tienen que hacer es apretar el globito que está aquí y cómo accesan ese globito moviendo su ratón o su mouse van a tener acceso al globito. En un teléfono eso ya está, el globito ya está en la parte de abajo de la aplicación de Zoom, pero le aprietan ese globito y les va a pedir que escojan el idioma que quieren escuchar y luego van a tener que hacer mute al original. Si le hacen mute al original, entonces van a escuchar la presentación en español porque es lo que estamos ofreciendo ahorita. ¿Ok? So I'm going to go ahead and start our rest of the presentation. As I did mention, this is really important for meetings that we're having here at DLAC or DPAC or any parent university that we're offering through the state and federal program, because we do offer this for our meetings. If there is an issue with this for whatever reason, it might happen, then we will always offer the phone option as well so that you can have access to it. But this is probably the fastest way for you to get the meeting in a different language, in this case, in Spanish. Now, if you were in another meeting outside of the district, and let's say you're learning on your own and they have a Zoom meeting and they have interpretation in different languages, this is the same way you would access that information, okay? So let's go ahead and continue. If you have any questions, make sure that you write them down somewhere, and then at the end, we will have time for a Q&A. I don't want to spend, most of the time talking. I do want to hear from you and what is it that you feel you need as far as being able to access Zoom, so that way we can troubleshoot any information or any things that are kind of happening, right? When you're in meetings. Here we go. Next slide. So the agenda for today is we are going to be talking about Zoom on a computer, and then we're going to show you Zoom on a phone. And then finally, actually we jumped, we went to the translation first. So we've already talked about the translation option in Zoom, but we are talking first about Zoom on a computer. Now, most of you, from what I can see, have been able to access this on a computer, which is good, but you also have the option of meeting at any time on Zoom on your phone, and we'll go over that at the second half, okay? Okay, so this is sort of basic. As I said, this is a basic one-on-one to Zoom, but I kind of want to let you know how to access this. Let's say you go to a new computer or you're at somebody else's computer, you need to access Zoom and you may not know how to do this. This is another way to do this. One of the ways is you open a web browser and you just type in Zoom on the top. And then you click on Zoom video conferencing webinars and chat, which should say, and this is really important, it should say zoom.us, right? So that you know you're clicking on the right one, that you're not clicking on a fake website, for example. So you want to click on that if you want to access it through a web browser, right? And that's if you're you know, in another computer, or you're borrowing somebody's computer, or you're out of the country and you need to access it, that's how you would do this. I would go through the web browser so that you don't have to install anything, because if you have to install anything, depending on the computer, you might have to have a password, and we don't want you to be stuck having to do that, okay? So you would type in Zoom, you will look for the zoom.us, that's their website address. And then once you click on that link, which is, once you click on this link right here, once you click on it, then it will take you to this page, right? Here, you wanna, if you are just gonna be, you know, joining somebody's meeting, you wanna click on join a meeting, and then it will bring you to this page right here, which says join a meeting, and then it has the ID that you need to enter, right? The ID is something that the person who is giving you or accessing you, giving you access to the meeting will give you. Now, for this one, you don't have to download anything, right? You can do it from a web browser. This is why I'm showing you this, because you could also have the app and it works the same way. But once again, this is if you're in a pinch or you don't have your app or you don't have your phone and you want to access Zoom on a web browser, okay? Now, this is really important. This is when we get to the nitty gritty, and some of you might have some difficulty with this. So we're gonna go over this, and I know some of you may not, but I wanna make sure, because this is where a lot of issues happen, not only for parents, but for teachers, for staff members, right? This is where a lot of the troubleshooting or the trouble starts. Once you actually click on the last screen and you put in the ID, if there is no passcode, like this meeting did not have a passcode, if there's no passcode, you will get to this screen. If there is a passcode, there is a screen in between this one and the last one, and this one, and this one, that will ask you for a passcode. That will ask you for a passcode. And that passcode will be given to you by whoever actually set up the meeting, right? Most of the meetings here at state and federal, if not all the meetings, do not have a passcode because they're public, right? Especially the DLAC and the DPAC meetings, you know, the parent university, those are public, right? You can have access to that. Okay, now let's talk about the computer audio. The computer audio is really important, especially if you are not on your own computer and you have to borrow somebody's computer. You want to test it, right? You want to use the computer audio, because there's two options, the phone call or the computer audio. You want to use the computer audio, so you're just using the computer. And then you want to click on join with computer audio, right? There is a little thing down here, a blue thing right here that says test speaker and microphone. I would use this to test your speaker and microphone before you start or before you join a meeting. You want to click on here, because what will happen is when you click on here, it will give you, it will play a sound. So if you can hear on your speakers, it's good. And then it will also record your voice for about a second or two. So that way, once you stop recording, you can play it back and listen to make sure that your audio is being heard, meaning your voice is being heard. So it is really important that you test that out, especially if you're on a new device, right? This is where, as I said, a lot of the issues happen with people, especially when you are using a new computer. So test speaker and audio, okay? Once you test the speaker and audio, once again, you should be able to hear something that they say. I think there's a pre-recorded message that will go through. And then the second part, you will record your voice and then you can play it. And if you can hear it, you're good to go. It means that you are able to then continue, okay? So the next part is, and let's go ahead and stop for a second here. I wanna show you the toolbar. I wanna I'll show you the toolbar. When you're on a computer, this is how your toolbar looks, right? You will have your audio, your video, you will have participants, you will have a chat, you may or may not have a screen share, and you actually may or may not have a chat. It all depends on the and it all depends on what your host has given you, right? If they've given you a chat or if they've given you access to be able to share the screen. If you don't see all these things, that's okay. That means that your host or whoever's holding the meeting has not given you options to this, right? There is a closed captioning option as well that could work for some of you who may need closed captioning. That is usually done in English, but depending on the host, it could be in Spanish as well, okay? And then there's also the breakout rooms as well. And we'll talk about breakout rooms in a second, okay? So I'm going to pause for a second right now, just so that you can take a look at the toolbar that I'm showing you. Make sure that you get familiarized with the toolbar because this is what we will be talking about and how to use it in a second. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. I just wanted you to take a look at the toolbar, make sure you had familiarized with it, right? Now, if you can't see it, if you're like, it's not there, Mr. Dominguez, I can't see the toolbar, then one way to do it is to move the mouse around, okay? Okay. I'm gonna pause for another second. I am going to look at the chat. There are some questions on the chat, and I'm gonna look at that in a second, okay? Oh, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Let me look at that chat. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so the one thing I want to make sure that we all know how to do is we know how to mute and unmute ourselves, right? I believe I set up this meeting when we first came in for you to be muted, but I want to make sure that we can unmute ourselves as well, because it's really important to have access to the voice and to make sure it works for all of us. So as you can see right now, if you look at your toolbar down here, it should have a little line through it, right? Should have a little line through it. So there should be a little line through the audio. Now, if you can see, there is a little, arrow pointing out. I want you to click on it, and I want you to, well, not on the arrow, but I want you to click on the audio and unmute yourselves. And I want everybody to unmute themselves because then I can see on my screen if you are muted. So let's go ahead and unmute ourselves. Thank you, iPhone de Felipe. Thank you, Rose B. Thank you, Vivian Smith. Maria Ley, thank you very much. Let's see. Anybody else? James, thank you very much. So I just want to make sure that you can unmute yourselves as soon as Alan Nevada, thank you very much. I saw that you can unmute yourself. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Anybody else? Maria Ley, Ruth, thank you very much. Sonia, thank you very much. Ms. Trang or Mrs. Trang, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So on my screen as a host, I can see who's muted and who is not, right? So thank you very much for those who have unmuted yourselves. Now I wanted you to try to mute yourselves. So now go ahead and mute yourselves for me. Awesome. Perfect. Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Marquez, if you can unmute yourself, that would be great. Just so that I know that you were able to do that. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
No problem. Thank you. Awesome. So that's one thing, right? And it's really important because when we're in these Zoom meetings, especially when we are working with, you know, a large number of people, it's really important that you have access to be able to talk, but we also want to make sure that we're muted when we are in the meeting so that we are able to listen to the presenter or be able to hear other participants when they have the floor, right? So muting and unmuting yourself is the one thing. You also don't want to, you know, have audio from the background and, you know, interrupt the meeting and make it harder for everybody else to hear. I know that's really important for me, and it's okay if you are called upon and, you know, it takes you a while to unmute. It happens, right? It's better than that than to hear sort of the background music throughout the whole, or the background noise throughout the whole meeting, right? And our students in school, you know, when they were distance learning, if they're in another school, like for example, Launch Academy, they're learning the same thing, right? They're learning how to make sure that they're able to do this, okay? Awesome. So the next thing is, if for some reason, right, we tested our audio, it was working, and all of a sudden it stops working, that little arrow up here allows you to modify your audio once you are in the meeting. But if everything is working fine, you don't have to worry about that little arrow that is pointing up next to your audio because everything is working fine, okay? Okay, next screen we're gonna talk about is, oh, I already mentioned that, so that's awesome. Next screen is how to start a video, right? If you do not want your face to be shown, most of you have your face or your video off, then you will see that you will know that your video is off because it has a little line through it. Same with your audio, right? If you line is not there, then your video is on. Having said that, your video might be on a screen or in a background that you decided to put on, but you are still showing your video, meaning we may not see past that screen, but we're still seeing your video. Now, the reason there is a line though, or when you do see a line, then you are for 100% sure that your screen or your camera is not presenting that information, right? So if you want total privacy, you want to make sure that that video has a little line through it, right? Otherwise, your camera is on. You may not be showing your face or your screen, but it's still on, okay? Let's go ahead and continue. Oh, why is it not moving? Let's move, there we go. Okay, this is really important, right? Because sometimes we're in different computers and we are invited to a Zoom meeting, or this is the only computer we have access to be able to come to a meeting. So this one, we're gonna test it out as a group. We're gonna work on this together. What I want is, I want everybody to follow along on this one because I'm gonna ask you to rename yourself. Now, some of you already have great names or you have your real name on there. That is perfect, but some of you do not. And I wanna make sure that we're able to do this so that when we do have access to this, or when we are in a meeting, that we are showing our, you know, our name that we wanna be presented, because it's also important for the host like myself to be able to call you by your right name, right? To be able to, when you have a question, be able to identify who is the question from. And that way we can always, you know, if it needs to be a follow-up, we know how to follow up, right? Without the right name or without a name that we can identify, it's really hard sometimes as a host to be able to do those follow-up questions, okay? So how do you rename yourself? The first thing is you're going to click on where it says participants. You're going to then see your name, right? You're going to look for your name, right? And then next to your name, there should be a section that says more. Okay. Next to more, once you click on more, you're going to actually right click. And right click means you're going to click with the right button on your mouse. So let me step one, going back. You're going to do participants. Step 1, participants. You're going to click on that, right? That's step 1. Step 2, you're going to find your name and you're going to look for where it says more. Okay. And you actually don't have to right click. You can just click on it. You don't have to right click. You can just click on it. And when you click on it, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with the screen. There we go. One more. There we go. When you click on it, the more, you should be able to say rename. Okay. Rename. And what you want to do is rename yourself, right, to something that the host will be able to understand. I'm going to change my name to Mr. Dominguez instead of Jacob Dominguez. And I'm going to click OK. And now you've seen, well, not on this screen, I got to do it on this one. Now you're going to see that if I rename myself, oh, should have come up. It's not coming up. Let me see if I do it on this one. There we go. That's why. So I'm renaming myself by clicking on there. And now you should see that it says Mr. Dominguez instead of Jacob Dominguez. And the way I did it is I click on participants. I looked for my name. I clicked on more and I clicked on rename. Okay. By clicking on rename, I can rename myself so it doesn't show, for example, a message or a name that I may not be able to identify myself as a host, right? And as I said, it's really important for us to be able to identify you when you're in a meeting as a parent, because if you have a question, if you need support, if there's anything that needs to be follow up, then we know who to talk to or who to follow up with and how to support you, right? So it's really important, okay? So once again, rename is really important. If you do have, for example, you said iPhone on it, or it says, iPad or something like that, this is the time there where you can go ahead and rename yourself. So that way it's something, once again, that we are able to then kind of identify, right? Okay. Okay, the next part. This is really important because as we are working for now virtually, we want to make sure that we get here at state and federal and at your different school sites that we get very specific information on your your concerns, your needs, your suggestions on how to improve our district. So a lot of times your host, like myself, will put you into breakout rooms, right? A breakout room is just a way to take the meeting and break it down into smaller pieces, okay? So for example, if we have a meeting of 100 parents, we might have breakout rooms of 10 so that we put you in pods or in groups of 10 to better hear you, to better understand you, and to better get suggestions from you, right, on a specific topic or a specific need, either at your school side or at your district, or even in general when you're having any type of meeting, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are also in your toolbar. If they're available to you, they're in your toolbar, right? Your host, like myself, will put you into a breakout room, okay? We'll talk about it in the phone as well. Thank you, Miss Simmons. Yes, Mr. Felipe, I'll show you how to do it on an iPhone in a little bit, okay? But going back to breakout rooms, sorry, I was looking at the chat. Going back to breakout rooms, your host might put you in a breakout room. So what you want to do is your host will do all the work, right? They will create the breakout room. They will put you in there. And then what they'll do is they will open them up. right? When you are on a computer, it will look like this. It will say, you've been assigned to breakout room, and then it will tell you the breakout room. All you got to do to join the breakout room is click join breakout room. There is an option to click later. I wouldn't do that in a meeting that is being hosted maybe at your site or here at state or federal, just because meetings are scheduled. So we want to make sure we get as much of your input as possible and much of your time as possible so we don't run too long. So you want to click on join breakout room. And what will happen is when you click join breakout room, it will then take you into a room with all the other participants that your host has put in that room. Okay. The number of people in that room will be lesser than the number of people in the main meeting. So for example, right now, let's assume we have about 25 people in this room. Then I could break it up into smaller rooms, and then you might have 5 people in a room, right? I don't want to do that today because I don't want to lose anybody, but just know that your host will be the one that will set all this up. And once they set you into a breakout room, what you will see is you will see a pop-up on your computer that says join breakout room. And all you got to do is click on it. Okay. And they will take you to the room. The more difficult part is getting out of a room, right? Like once you've been put into a breakout room, then how do you get out of one if the meeting is done or if you're supposed to be sent back? So one of the things that, and we'll talk about this within this slide, one of the things that you can do is on the bottom, on the right-hand side on your computer, when you're in a breakout room, you can click on leave breakout room, okay? That leave breakout room will send you back to the main site, right? You don't wanna click on an X, you don't wanna close your computer, you wanna click on leave breakout room, right? And that will send you back to the main meeting. Now, let's say that you're in a meeting and you are, somebody's writing on my PowerPoint. Interesting. Let's say you're in a meeting and let's say you are stuck and you need help. How do you go ahead and ask for help? Well, on the bottom, when you're in a breakout room, there is a little button that says ask for help. Okay. That button, what will happen is when you click on it, right, it will invite the host like myself to help you out, right? Now, I may bring you out of the breakout room myself and not go into your breakout room. I just might bring you back out, but it will definitely, that will definitely give my attention as a host to help you leave or to help you get into a different type of breakout room if that's what you need, right? But asking for help will notify me as the host that you need some support, okay, that you need some help. Okay. Now, when you are leaving the breakout room, you will be able to return to the main session immediately, or it will take about 60 seconds for you to return to that main room. Okay. So when you click on this button right here, this right here, you can either do it immediately or you can wait 60 seconds, right? However you want to choose, right? Once again, but to ask for help, you want to click on here. We have a question. I'm going to take it right now. iPad guest, can you go ahead and mute yourself, please? iPad guest, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, maybe they're not able to hear me. Okay, we'll continue. If you need help, we will definitely come back and answer any of your questions, okay? But once again, really important, if you are stuck, if you are in the wrong room, if you need a room maybe that is in Spanish versus English or in English versus Spanish, this is a great button to click on when you're in a breakout room, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and go into talking about the chat. I don't want you to use the chat right now necessarily, but we will be talking about the chat in a little bit. So the chat is really important because a lot of times as a host like myself, I need to give you more information. Some of that information can be maybe a sign-in sheet, or maybe you need to, I am asking you to give me some information that I don't want you to give it to me verbally. So the chat is really important. When you click on the chat, most of the time, it will pop up on the right. Okay, now this chat will sometimes kind of go all over the place, right? Because you can detach it. By detaching, I mean you can take it out of where it's located and put it anywhere on your screen. But for now, what happens is when you click on the chat on the computer, it will open up this little box to the right. And then on that little box to the right, you will be able to open up this side panel. Here's where you can type in stuff. Anything that has already been typed or given to you is on the top. Okay, it's up here. This is a good way to ask questions, especially if a presenter is giving, let's say, like a webinar, and you have a question that you want them to answer live or you want them to answer later and you don't want to forget. It's a great place to put the question right here. It seems like a lot of you know how to actually use it already, but it's really important that you are able to do this, okay? The chat is really important as well because, as I said, we will go ahead and put information a lot of times as hosts on the chat for you to be able to either click on, look at, access. So a chat is really important, okay? So once again, you click on it to open it, you can click on it to close it as well. If you don't want to see the chat, you can click on it and it can go away. And it can also be separated. So make sure if you are using it that you don't move it around, you don't unclick it, because they can move all around your screen. Like right now, my chat, it's on another screen because then I can see the chat on a different screen than the one that I'm actually presenting, okay? Really important. All right, so now I'm gonna talk about using Zoom on a phone. Okay, but after I talk about using Zoom on a phone, which I'm not going to spend as much time as I did because some of the stuff is repeated, but after that we'll have some time to do Q&A, any questions you might have, any things that you might need, and then from there we will be able to wrap up our meeting. Okay, so how to use the Zoom on a phone. So when you are trying to use Zoom, what you do is you on a phone is you want to download the app, right? So the app is really important that you download. Okay, that's number one thing. Number two, once you download the app, either through iOS, which is Apple, or when you do it through Google, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the app and it will have the same screen as I showed you before to type in your meeting ID and maybe your meeting passcode, depending on the meeting, okay? Once you are in the meeting, your audio allows you to do two different things. You can either do call over internet or dial in. You want to click on call over internet, especially if you want a interpretation. If you want interpretation, you want to use call over internet, okay? The menu is on the bottom. The menu looks almost the same for both the iPhone and a Google phone, like a Samsung or an Android phone. Okay. Okay, so once you are you chose the call over internet, you want to go to where it says more, the three little dots. You want to go there to get an interpretation, and you want to click on language interpretation. Clicking on language interpretation will then give you access to the different languages where this meeting or any meeting where they are offering different languages, okay? So you wanna go ahead and do that. On this more, there's also the raise your hand, right? Hide my video from gallery. There's a lot of options right here. And there's also the chat. So that's really important, right? On the more, you get the chat access. So that's if you are on a phone and you want to have access to the chat, that's where you find it. Now, if you look at this toolbar, this person has muted their phone and they don't have a videos going on. So this is how they're muted, and this is how it shows when they don't have their camera showing, okay? But for interpretation, once again, you wanna call over internet, choose that as an option, and then you wanna go to language interpretation, okay? We'll skip that. Now, how do you join a meeting on a phone? Let's say you're on a phone. Well, when you download the app, you will click on join meeting. You will then type in your meeting ID at the top, if they give you a meeting ID. And then this right here, right at the bottom. Now I'm using an iPhone for this, but this right here is where you change your name, right? Right at the start of a meeting. You will click on here and change your name, right? If you want to change it to something else. And then here you have the option of, do I want to use audio? Do I want to use video? I have them where I don't want to use them to start off because I want privacy right when I start off. Once I'm in the meeting, I might change these, but for now I have them off. And once I type in the meeting ID, this button right here where it says join will turn blue. Once it's blue, I know that I can click on it and access the meeting. Okay. Now, in this case, I did choose to start my meeting that I was going to join with my camera. So it does ask me, would you like, for it to access the camera? I always click okay or yes, because I can always later on change it to no. But if I click do not allow, then what's going to happen is I will have to go into my settings on my phone and change that permission. Even if you're in a new meeting, it won't allow you. If you X out and you try to get back in, it won't allow you to share your camera if you click do not allow. It basically blocks your Zoom from using your camera until you go into your settings and you make those changes yourself. So the very first time I join a meeting on my phone on Zoom, I tell it okay, because I can always turn off my camera later on without having to go into the settings of my phone. But if I click do not allow, then it's really hard to go back and allow it. You would have to go into your settings to make those changes within your phone, okay? So just know that. I always say okay. Okay. Now, once I'm in the meeting, you can see there's a video, right? It said, yes, I'm going to join with video, right? Or I can actually click join without video, right? Once I'm in the meeting. But if I want to have a blurry background, I don't want anybody to see what my background really looks like. I want to pick a different background. What I'll do is I'll have an option. This is on an iPhone. I'll have an option to click on this little button right here. And that little button will give me options of blurring something, for example, or adding different backgrounds if I wanted to do that. So if you see somebody with a blurred background, like right now, you can see me talking to the camera and I have a blurred background on my computer. On the phone, you can do the same thing. You can have a blurred background so that nobody can see what's on the background, right? You can put anything you want on the background, right? I normally just blur it. But how do you access that? You click on this little icon on your phone, and then it will give you this option right here. Okay. Now, for audio, if you're just going to do it in English, right, it will ask you, do you want to hear other people? Well, actually, if you do it in Spanish as well, if you're going to do the translation, it will ask you, do you want to hear other people's audio? And what you will do is click on Wi-Fi or cellular data. You want to do this audio because that gives you access to the translation. If you do dial in, it doesn't really give you access to the translation. So when you first access any meeting, it will ask you for this, right? This will be one of the pop-ups. So you want to click on this one, Wi-Fi or cellular, right? And that way, then you'll have the option to the translation later on, okay? And I'll show you how to access that. Okay, once again, unmute, mute, stop video, start video, right? You have share content. If I give you that access, or if the host gives you that access, you can see the participants. And then you have the three little buttons that says more. So you want to make sure that you get really used to this one, because this is where all the other tools are at, right? If you want to leave the meeting, you can always click leave meeting, and you can, that's how you get out of the meeting entirely, right? Okay. So sorry about these slides, but what happens when you click more? When you click more on your phone, you will have the option to raise your hand. You will have option to add background filters, like I show you, the blurring. You will have the option of the chat, right? Or to do emojis, right? The chat, the blurring, right? And the raising the hand are going to be the most important things that you will be able to do, okay? So these are found under more, both on Android and on iOS. So if you want to access the chat on your iPad, you will click on more. If you want to get background filters so that your camera is not showing, or the background in your house is not showing, you want to do that. And if you want to raise your hand, you would do that through that more button, okay? Okay, how about breakout rooms on a phone? So on a phone, same thing. The host, like myself, will set up the breakout room. You will get a notification that says join. You can either join now or you can join later. I would suggest always click join now, and that will take you to the breakout room that the host has given you, okay? Once you're in there, you can ask for help. There's a button that says ask for help, and that will bring the host to give you help. You can also leave the breakout room if you wanted to leave the breakout room, right? That button right here. But if you need help, because maybe you are in the wrong room, you can go ahead and click that. Or if maybe you need help because you need a translator and we need to put you in a different room that may have that access, you then would click on that, okay? Okay, so this is basically the end of the presentation. From here on, I want to hear from you. I have two people with raised hands that I will be calling on right now. And then I also want to see if anybody has any specific questions that they might have. But before we do that, though, I do want to ask you one favor so that we can practice this, right? Okay, and I know most of you know how to do this, but I still want to try it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link on the chat, okay? The link is for me to get an idea of who's in the room and where you're from, right? And I'm pasting it right now. What I want you to do is, if you have a chance, to click on this and let me know where you are from, your email address, and your name, just so that I know who is in this room. And then that way, if there's any follow-up that I need to do, or Ms. Simmons, who's thankfully translating for me right now, hopefully it didn't go too fast, that she then, or I, can go ahead and follow up with you and we know, okay? But if you can click on that link, I'm gonna put it one more time. I'm going to put the link on the chat, and what you got to do is you can click on the actual link that says HTTPS forms. You can click on that link, and I'm going to show you, right? You can click on that link, and when you click on that link, oh, it's not showing. So let me share my screen again. Where's my thing? See, toolbars. Toolbars are important. All right, let me new share. Let's see. if you go to the chat, and it's not letting me, but if you go on the chat, there is a little link that you click on. And when you click on that link, what's going to happen is you're going to get access to this right here. Hopefully it should show up. There you go. When you click on that link, you will see this survey. If you can click on that survey, I would really appreciate it. And you don't have to do it right now if you don't want to, but at some point, if you can click on it, that'd be really great because it would allow me and Ms. Simmons to know who showed up to our meeting, who might need some follow-up. Maybe that would be a great way to follow up with you for other presentations you want us to do. But if you can click on that, that'd be really great. Okay, you don't have to put your name on the chat itself. There is a link that you click on that it should be like https:/forms that you can click on, and that will get you into here. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm putting in the wrong one. I did not put it on the right one. That's my fault. Here we go. Yes, I put it on the wrong one. If somehow when you are a host, you can actually talk to the people in the waiting room as well. My fault. Here we go. The link should be there now. And I'll post it again one more time. Okay, so we have two people with hands up. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Ms. Jose Luis Marquez first. If you can unmute yourself, that would be really great. And you can talk to me in Spanish or English, however you want, and then I will answer your question.
Hola, sí, te estoy escuchando. ¿Sí me escuchas?
Sí.
Ok. Estoy intentando abrir esa pantallita. Bueno, mi nombre es José Luis Márquez. Soy de México. Fue lo que me preguntaste, ¿no? ¿No?
No, pero no importa.
No.
Ok.
Ok. Entonces, ¿qué ocupabas ahorita? ¿Mi email?
En el link, en el chat, puse un link y que puede abrirlo y lo puede llenar después, pero si lo puede abrir ahorita, si está en un teléfono va a ser un poquito más difícil, pero si está en su computadora, le aprieta el link y ahí va a
No,
abrir.
estoy en
Ajá.
teléfono. Estoy en
Ok.
teléfono.
No se preocupe entonces, después lo ponemos en eso, nos vamos a poner en nuestra página la grabación de esta junta o de este workshop y ahí lo puede llenar después, no hay problema.
Perfecto.
Okay.
Ok, muchas gracias.
De
Gracias por la
nada,
información.
de nada. iPad guest, if you can unmute yourself, please. Okay, we'll then keep going. And I'm gonna, hopefully I don't, mess up this name too much. Jetel?
Hola.
Hola.
Ya de clic en el link y es un survey, ¿verdad?
Sí, ajá.
Ok,
Pues
lo tenemos.
le llamo survey, pero en verdad nomás es como una forma de cómo captar quién está aquí y dónde, qué escuela para saber cómo les podemos continuar ayudando.
Ok, entonces solamente dejo mi nombre, mi email address y...
¿Y qué escuela vas?
Ok, el nombre de mi hijo y la escuela.
No, nomás el nombre, nomás en qué escuela, no ocupamos el nombre de su hijo, nomás en qué escuela va. Por ejemplo, yo lo estoy llenando ahorita para que ustedes vean. Y voy a poner mi nombre, Jacobo Domínguez. I'm just filling this out so that you can see. I just put my email address, my name, and then click next. And then I just choose what school am I from, or my kids are from. I'm gonna put other because I work for the district. And then that's submit, and that's it. It's just an exercise on how to fill out when hosts put information, how to fill it out. Es un ejercicio de cómo llenar información especialmente cuando una persona como yo, que es el host o el anfitrión, está llenando la información. Okay. Any other questions? ¿Otras preguntas que tengan? Tengo a Ruth. Ruth, si puedes unmute, if you can unmute, Ruth.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks. I have a few questions. I don't know
Go
if
for
you
it.
got my survey.
I
And
will.
then when
Uh-huh.
I had a few questions, is that okay to ask
Yeah,
my questions?
we
Okay.
have time right now.
Okay, so in my toolbar, when I went to the toolbar at the very beginning,
Uh-huh.
I don't have that breakup room icon.
There's
Is
a
that
reason for that. Yeah.
okay? So
I'll-
only the host can have it, or what?
Right.
Okay.
What's going to happen is I will have it, but I just wanted to show you the whole toolbar. So in case you ever want to host a Zoom meeting, right? Let's say you want to meet with family across, the nation, or you might be able to do that, right? You want to have a holiday party on Thanksgiving. You don't want to necessarily able to fly across the nation because of what's going on. This is a tool that you can use as well. So yes, you would see it if you were hosting your own. Okay.
Okay. Then when I went to click to change my name and I clicked on more,
Mm-hmm.
it just said add profile picture. It didn't say, I didn't have the option to change my name. It just said my only option was to change my add profile picture.
Oh, interesting. Because when I click on yours, I can rename you myself. I'm wondering why you're not able to. Are you on a phone or a computer?
Computer.
Oh, okay. Well, the other way that I found to do it is if you click on your own screen, like where you can see yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 little buttons, right, where you can mute yourself.
Yeah.
And then they should say rename in one of those.
Mm.
No?
It says lower hand, move my auto, stop video, choose virtual background, pin, hide, self view, add profile picture.
Okay, let's see. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have been in a Zoom where I was able to rename myself, and this one, I don't know why it didn't happen, so I was curious.
Yeah, me too. You should have that access. What I would do is before you join the meeting, make sure you just name yourself, but you have the right name on yours, so you should be okay for now, unless you want to
Okay.
change it to something else.
And then my other question, so you're in a computer,
Yes.
and if I choose to blur my background, how do I do it in my own computer? I don't see where.
Okay, so on this one, okay, so when you're on your computer, right, and you have the video where it says start video, right? You see that start video?
Oh my goodness, suddenly I heard it in Spanish.
You see that start video on your computer where you can stop the video and start the video on your toolbar?
That's weird. I am listening in Spanish. I didn't change it. I do speak Spanish. That's okay,
Okay.
but that's weird.
So where you can turn off your video and turn on your video, right next to there should be a little arrow, either pointing up or pointing down, depending where your toolbar is at. And if you click on that little arrow next to where it says start video, you can click on choose virtual backgrounds.
Oh. Oh, I see.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Not for now. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else that anybody has? If there is a specific question that you might have, or maybe you're having trouble with your device right now and you're like, you know what? I tried everything you did, Mr. Dominguez. I couldn't really get it going, right? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with my email address and also Ms. Simmons' email address. So you can email us directly. And what we'll do, I misspelled the .org. What we'll do is we will answer your questions, or maybe we can work with you one-on-one just to get you going, because for us it's really important, especially with, as we're dealing with this particular issue of the pandemic, we want to make sure that you have access to these type of meetings, because for the foreseeable future, this is what we might have to continue to do. So let me give you, this is the email address. So, and I'm gonna zoom into it. Let me, I don't know why I'm still doing that. Okay, so. So that's our email addresses. I am jacobo.dominguez@sweetwaterschools.org. And then we also have Ms. Simmons at sweetwaterschools.org, Anna.Simmons@sweetwaterschools.org. If you have any questions, if you need any support, because we are having any issues whatsoever, then let us know and we can definitely help you out. For the survey, that's just a practice, right? We just want to make sure that you know how to access that. I know there's a question about what happens when you click on the chat link. When you click on the chat link, if you are on a computer, what will happen is you will then get a another screen that will open up. And then on that screen, you will have access to the survey, which is really not a survey, but it's more of a sort of a tool to make sure that what happens once you click on that. Okay, if there are no other questions, I will go ahead and stop recording. And then we will, just for those of you who were asking, we will put this on the on our parent website so that you have access to it if you want to see it later, okay?